Welcome to another edition of Around the Table with Stacy Smith as we take a look at the political scene. This is a week for debates. KDKA is hosting a debate tonight between the Republican and Democratic candidates for county executive. Last night was the second debate for the Republicans who would like to become president of the United States. Well, we will talk about that debate in just a few minutes, but first we'll discuss the debate for county executive. And here to offer their opinions is my panel of political analysts. They are former and last Republican governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Corbett. Mr. Corbett has also served as Attorney General for the state of Pennsylvania and also as the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania. Tom now teaches law at Duquesne University. Jim Byrne is the chairman emeritus of the Democratic Party for the state. Jim served as the state chairman during a crucial time for the party. He also served as president of Allegheny County Council and mayor of Millvale. Jim is an attorney here in town. As we go around the table, we find Keith Schmidt. Keith's background in politics goes back to the Reagan presidency, and Keith was a state director for former Republican Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. Keith was also a consultant to Santorum's 2012 presidential bid. Keith has his own consulting firm. And seated across the table on the Democratic side is someone who I like to call the great philosopher of Around the Table, and that is Joe Mystic. Joe is a guiding light for a lot of candidates across the country and across the state for as long as they're Democrats, I think. And he's consulted on campaigns just about everywhere. He also served in several roles in city government, including that as deputy mayor. Joe teaches law at Duquesne University, and you can read his thoughts on politics and life every weekend in the Tribune Review. Once again, thank you all for joining us. As I mentioned, the Republican and Democratic candidates for Allegheny County Executive will be facing off tonight at 7 o'clock in a debate televised by KDKA-TV. These candidates might be familiar to the party faithful, but not necessarily to the general public. So, Governor, you have had to stand on a debate stage before many times. So what do you expect to see tonight?
Well, they each need to introduce themselves to the public who's watching the television. They've been introducing themselves with, well, Rocky has with commercials. But they have to get to the people who are going to make the decision come November. And they have to say what they're there for. What do they stand for? Mr. Rocky needs to talk about his experience, and hopefully he will do that. And not so much the difference between the two of them in the beginning of the debate, but towards the end of the debate, I think the gloves will come off a little bit, and you'll see them poking jabs at each other about their positions.
Yes, I think that's what we can expect. This is the first time in 12 years that the office of chief executive will be held by someone other than the current office holder. So there is a degree of a good degree of unfamiliarity in the likely voters in less than 2 months. So yes, I mean, they're going to come out and introduce themselves and talk about who they are, where they're from, what they stand for, and their platforms for the county. I expect that we're going to see and hear a lot about public safety, the economy, but I do think once they get off the fluff part, the introduction and who they are, you're going to see some pivoting on both sides towards the other in attempts to pin each other down on a variety of different positions, the economy, the public safety issues, taxes, things of that nature. And from now until November, today is, in my opinion, chapter one of this very, what I think is going to be heated and contested race.
I mean, this is a Democratic county, folks, but there's no doubt that we can all agree that the Democratic nominee is most vulnerable on a head-to-head race, and that's what we're facing now, a head-to-head race. And for whatever reason, she's given the Rocky campaign a little over a 3-week head start in introducing themselves to voters in Allegheny County. I think he'll use that to his advantage tonight. But I think tonight is about talking about who they are. It's a resume night. And the resume, I think, favors the Republican candidate because he has handled and overseen billions of dollars, similar to a $3 billion budget in the county. He's managed and overseen thousands of employees at PNC Bank. So I think he's gonna talk about the fact that he's ready on day one. And if my sense is correct, he's going to remind people that the office itself is called executive, county executive. And who among the two of us would you be more comfortable with running a $3 billion operation with 7,500 employees?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues in the sense that these are not brand name politicians. It's an unusual race for a top position like this to have people that are really outsiders to the general public in terms of public service. The Democrat has no, Sarah Innamorato has no executive experience. The Republican, Joe Rockey, has no government experience. And, both of those have pluses and minuses in the minds of different sets of voters. So it should be a nice debate. It should be a pretty peaceful debate, at least for the opening debate. I hope there are more, and I hope they mix it up more as the issues really rise to the surface.
What are going to be? I mean, you've kind of touched on these, but do all of you believe that crime and just the path that the city is taking will be the primary topics?
Let's talk about crime, for a minute. Mayor Gainey and County Executive Rich Fitzgerald just met with a group of people from downtown to assure them that downtown's not that bad, that downtown's getting better. Here's what I say: don't believe them. And don't believe me about the condition of downtown. Take a walk down there any afternoon at 2:00 in the afternoon, or get in your car and take a drive down Smithville Street at 10 p.m. and decide for yourself. And I think if you do that, you'll realize that things are pretty bad, really bad. And I think that then you'll be looking for some answers from these two candidates.
Yeah, the Gainey administration has been an abject failure in the people's eyes, both in the city and those who observed it from the county. I think it's going to be critically important for the Democratic nominee to find a way to distance herself from the mayor and talk about a different style of governing from the county executive. If she hooks herself to that train, it's going to be a long night on election night for her.
My observation would be that while the Gainey administration would say that crime is down, he's basing that upon the number of arrests that are going on. The police have been backed off, and they will tell you confidentially that they're not stepping in where they would have under a different administration. So that doesn't mean that crime is down. And if you go to the average citizen that's walking down there, somebody that's going to the cultural district in the evening, they're very careful about where they're walking and who's around them. So it's perception as much as reality that crime is not down in the city. And that spreads to the county, because it is people in the county, in the suburbs, that are coming into the city to provide revenue to the city in the form of the cultural district and the baseball games and football games and everything like that. So this is a very dangerous time, in my mind, for the Gainey administration to be saying, well, crime's down.
All right, Jim, we have to take a break here, but I'll ask you this. So I know you're on the Democratic side, but if you were on the Republican side advising Rocky, would you tie Mr. Gainey, the mayor, with Sarah Innamorato?
If I'm Mr. Rocky, I don't have to tie her to Mr. Gainey. I don't think anybody can dispute the fact that they're already linked together. I mean, they've come up together. They've endorsed each other. They were in the state house together. What Sarah needs to do is say, although we are allies, here's my positions on certain things, and she's going to have to aggressively go after the perception and the reality of the situation in the city.
All right,
I think that the progressive wing of the party is unforgiving, and if they see any indication that you're breaking with Mayor Gainey, they're going to punish her for that.
All right, we'll maybe get more into that in just a moment, but we have to take a break.